Welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. With over 20 years of real estate experience and selling over 150 homes a year, Laura Sanders is the #1 RE/MAX agent in the state of Florida for 2021. Join us each week as we discuss how to make money through buying and flipping homes to renting versus selling and everything in between. To join the conversation, call in live 888-994-4995, Studio A.
Hi everyone, welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. Every week we talk about something to help you make a little money, save a little money, or maybe it would just help you navigate this crazy world that we live in. Because if I tell you nothing that you don't already know, the world is crazy. I hate to say it, but things happen every day you're not expecting, and you need to navigate through it. So today I thought, what would be another thing that would help you all save money? Well, having children driving is probably something that's very scary. We all worry about our kids falling down the stairs, but wait till they grow older and they drive. You're really going to be worried then. So today with me I have William Heller from Heller & Heller, and AKA Bill. And we're going to talk about accidents. It could be in the car, it could be a slip and fall, it could be anything. But the one thing that I think about when I think of, needing representation is we have our kids out there driving. Once they turn 16, 17 years old, they're out there driving. How do we as parents protect ourselves?
Well, you could make sure that you track your children as to where they're going, and they're going where they're supposed to be. And now with vehicles and phones, you could even track the speed that your children are driving and keep a closer check on them and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do to make sure they have safe avenues and routes and they go where they're supposed to.
And we do that with our sons. We know if they're speeding, and I have to say they've been really good. In fact, in the neighborhood we live in, they check your speed. Their friends have all gotten tickets in our community, and we've got notifications, but never for our kids, which is good. But I know that sometimes I've heard from attorneys that do what you do have said, well, the car, once they turn 18, try to sign the car over to the child. But if they still live at home and they're still on your insurance, that's probably not going to work.
If you're on the title and you own that vehicle, then you're going to be responsible if something happens. And you don't want to have a judgment against you. You want to make sure that you're protected. So you could do that by buying bodily injury coverage, which is the insurance that'll protect you in case there's an accident. Even if there's a question about liability, there could still be a claim, and then you're going to have to deal with lawyers, and it's just a lot less of a problem if you carry proper insurance coverage. Because in Florida, to drive legally, you only need to carry PIP coverage, which is your no-fault insurance. It'll pay for your medical bills if you're hurt.
And how much is that? What is
the minimum is $10,000 of PIP coverage, which in today's world isn't very much. It's the same coverage they've had probably for 35, 40 years, is $10,000. So you can imagine what $10,000 would do if you're at the hospital. That's going to be used up, and then if you're hurt, you still need to get therapy and treatment, and depending on your health insurance, that could be a problem. So you don't want to be left having a problem with that, so you carry decent insurance coverage.
So let's go back to health insurance, right? If I'm in a car accident, does my health insurance have to cover?
Well, under the law, your PIP, or your no-fault insurance, is primary. So even if you don't want to go through, like a common thing that I'll see is someone is in an accident and maybe their child was in the car and they're hurt and they're afraid to go through their auto insurance, so they'd rather go through their health insurance. That's not proper, and it's a requirement that PIP is primary. So a lot of people don't even understand that if your child is a passenger in a car, a friend's car, or even if they're a passenger in one of the parents of one of their friends, and there's an accident, you have to go through your own auto insurance. As a matter of fact, I think people would be surprised to learn that even if you're on a bicycle and a car clips you and you fall off your bike, your own auto insurance is going to take care of your medical bills. And a lot of people are surprised that that's how that works.
Okay, so if you're on a bicycle, your auto insurance would Or
Only
somebody
if it
clips you.
involves a motor vehicle.
Okay.
If you hit a curb and you fall, then it certainly doesn't involve your auto
You're
insurance.
just SOL.
You better have good health insurance. Or be careful, wear a helmet.
So, okay, so there's a lot of things going on here. So we're talking about health insurance, and you need to obviously, because I know that I had gotten into a car accident, and of course she stopped in the middle of the road. I hit her from behind, very little. There was no damage really to her car, so yet she's hurt. She's hurt, in quotations, right? So they keep sending me letters asking me if I have any additional coverage.
That's common, and insurance companies and lawyers will want to try and follow out to see if there's more insurance coverage than your bodily injury coverage. And it's a tactic that lawyers many times use to frighten somebody, even if it's a smaller accident. Now, obviously, if there's a significant accident with injuries that are going to be permanent and lifelong, then you could have a concern if you don't have enough insurance coverage. So typically people that don't carry what we would consider bodily injury coverage, that's the coverage that protects you if you're the one that causes the accident. And that is coverage that's important to carry so you don't get sued. They will also provide defense for you. So if you did have a claim filed against you, you don't have to go hire a lawyer, which could be more than the value of what your coverage is. So usually those cases, most people don't understand that. I'm going to say approximately 90% of accident cases, if they're clean, meaning the liability isn't a big dispute, will get worked out amicably. So a lot of people make an assumption, if I hire a personal injury lawyer, I'm going to end up in court, there's going to be a trial, there's going to be depositions, and that's not typically the case. Most of those cases settle out of court. And even the 10% or so that might have to get filed with the court, probably 80-90% of those will settle at mediation prior to trial. So those are usually worked out amicably.
And a lot of these people that really aren't hurt, that file suit, which I'm sure you probably tell those people, you're not that lawyer, where you're like, maybe this isn't the right thing for you to be doing.
As a lawyer, we're going to spend a lot of time and money and effort to pursue a case in litigation and possibly court and trial. And you don't want to go spin your wheels and pursue a case that has a minimal value or questionable injury. So those are claims that at least our office probably wouldn't go out of our way to pursue because it's just not going to be productive, and I'm going to have a client that's not going to be happy with the end result. So you have to make sure you set expectations.
You're like the other profession, like realtors, where you don't get paid and you put money out until you complete your job.
Right, that's
so
accurate.
People need to keep that in mind, so you wouldn't take a case, which I find it interesting that there's other companies, they're just taking cases. Like, I laugh because the lady that I had hit, she came out, she was freaking out on me. I think she got hurt from just her shaking her head at me and yelling at me and putting her finger at me. But I think that the other thing is that people don't follow through with their care, right? So now they get less when you go to settle, because obviously that's what you do. You look and you say, okay, you were supposed to go to the chiropractor 3 times a week, but you're only going 1 time a week. You really can't be that hurt.
Well, here, I'll give you a good example. You can have 2 people in the same car accident, suffered the same impact. Let's just assume they're about the same health and age. And you have one person could just be super tough, or they don't like going to doctors, or they can withstand pain more than perhaps the other person. And they go to the doctor like 4 or 5 times, and then they're done, and they just suffer quietly, and they don't pursue treatment. They don't have documentation about how bad they're hurt. And then you get the other person who has a lot of difficulty, and they pursue the treatment that they're supposed to get, and they see orthopedics, chiropractic, get MRIs, or whatever is required, and the doctor would recommend. That person is going to get compensated more appropriately than the person who has minimal treatment and minimal care. Even though their injuries might be the same, it's a lot of times about the documentation. So I make sure that people are going to be, if they're hurt, you have to follow up and get the care and the treatment that you're supposed to have.
Right. So if somebody found themselves in this situation, what would be a good contact number for them to reach out to you to?
All right. Well, I provide my cell phone number to all my clients, which is 954-557-0272.
Say it slower.
954-557-0272. Okay. And my office number, I have a main number, is 954-340-0037. And our Boca line is listed on the program right in front of us here.
And if you didn't hear any of that, you can always reach out to me and I can connect you to Bill at 954-650-0827. So the program's called Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I'm a realtor, so I'm always looking for people that are looking to buy and sell, but I'm also looking to give information because, listen, sometimes we have clients that we're in the middle of selling their home, they've gotten hurt, they need a recommendation, and I find that after all these years of doing this, people ask me all the time, like, do you know who I can call because of this? And what I just recently had a friend get in an accident, and she called a big company, and I was like, don't do that because you're never going to hear from them again. And you're really just a number. You're not a person.
If if a firm has 1,000 cases, and obviously there's different lawyers even with these giant firms, you're not necessarily getting that specific lawyer that you expect that you're getting. Right. If you hire our firm, you're getting me. I'm the one that's going to call. I'm going to provide contact information. If someone needs to text me or email me weekends or what have you, I'm going to be on it right away. But I did want to bring up an important point regarding an auto accident claim. A lot of times I get calls from people that they were in an accident and they think it maybe wasn't that bad, or the person says, I don't want my insurance to go up. They're really very nice. I'm on my way to church. I mean, I've heard everything. And then after they don't call the police and they provide the bill to get their car repaired, the person suddenly changes gears, and now that you don't have a police report, there's no documentation, and you have one word against another. So it's important, especially if you didn't cause the accident, to get the police to come out, get a report taken, and do it properly. Now, if the other person wants to pay to fix your car directly, then that's fine. But you want to have that backup coverage to make sure you're taken care of.
Yeah, so we're going to go to commercial break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about why you definitely want to get a police report, because it's just not just more than wanting to have the claim paid. It could be much more serious than that. So we're going to go to commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about why you should definitely be calling the cops, no matter what.
All roads lead home with Fairway Home Mortgage. When it comes to home financing, who you work with matters. At Fairway Home Mortgage, we combine the strength of a national lender with the care and accessibility of local mortgage experts. We offer a wide range of home financing solutions, personalized guidance, and a streamlined process designed to keep things simple, from application to closing. Because at Fairway, home isn't just what we finance, it's what drives everything we do. Connect with Cliff Bernstein, Branch Manager, NMLS number 7853 at 561-213-6852 to see what your options are today. Company NMLS number 2289. This is not an offer to enter into an agreement. Not all customers will qualify. Subject to underwriting approval, other terms and conditions may apply. Equal housing opportunity. Loan Officer NMLS number 7853.
At JK Closing Attorneys, we do all of the same things that a title company does, but with the benefits of being a law office. We can help with residential real estate, short sales, commercial real estate, refinances, 1031 exchanges, and FIRPTA withholding.
Contact JK Closing Attorneys today at 954-332-3111. Again, that is 954-332-3111.
Priority One Credit Union of Florida is a welcoming credit union that makes your financial success our number one priority. We offer lower loan rates, higher deposit rates, and common sense local loan approvals, with nationwide access through shared branching.
Hi, I'm Dina Hennessy, President and CEO at Priority One Credit Union. We are open to the community. Anyone can be a member of our credit union, and we would love to have you.
Contact us today at 954-335-5100. You can also reach us at PriorityOneFL.org. Your financial success is our priority. That's 954-335-5100.
You have been watching Making Money with Laura. For more information, contact Laura Sanders at 954-650-0827 or visit her website at theloracell.com. And now back to the show.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. Today we're talking about accidents, hiring an attorney when you get into an accident, how to keep yourself out of trouble, how to be prepared, how to have the right coverage. There's just so many things. And so again, when we talk about this show and Making Money with Laura Sanders, my fellow realtors watch and listen to my show, and I want to make sure that you're covered appropriately. And if you're not, or something happens to you, I want to make sure you have the right person to give a call to. So I'm here today with William Heller from Heller & Heller Associates, AKA Bill. He gives that one-on-one service that you're not going to get from other big firms, and he's going to give you the right information to make sure you're protected. So you want to make sure you're looking at your policies, making sure you have the right coverage, and making sure that you're not putting yourself where you could be financially destitute, basically. So again, my name's Laura Sanders. I am a realtor, always looking for your referrals for buyers and sellers. You can always reach me at 954-650-0827, or you can go to my website at laurasell.com. And again, welcome back, Bill.
Thank you.
So before we went to commercial break, I told everybody, well, when we come back, we're going to talk about why you really should be calling the cops. It's not about getting coverage. It's much more than that. It's keeping yourself out of jail.
Well, usually, unless somebody's arrested for drunk driving, you don't want to leave the scene of an accident without having the police there, because somebody could tell a different story after you're gone. And then you'll be surprised to see the police knocking on your door, and you'll wonder what you did wrong. And there might be a different story told that
You
was
hit and
told
ran
to the police that you left the scene. Now, you know, obviously if there's damage to the back of your vehicle, that would be less likely. But
You could have backed into them.
you know, you could come up with anything. I mean, everyone sees on YouTube and all these videos the setups that are done where somebody slams their brakes on, you know, which is another point, that a lot of cars have cameras in them. But if you don't have one, it would really be important to have a camera put into your car so you could record what's going on while you're driving. And in the event something comes up, there'll be documentation to support your position, because it shouldn't be a surprise that when someone causes an accident, they will have a neglectful memory that it was their fault and try and weasel their way out of it because they're afraid their insurance is going to go up, or, you know, for a variety of reasons. And they'll convince themselves that it wasn't their fault. And when the insurance company looks at a claim and we go to try and resolve it, a lot of times we'll hear that the other party says it wasn't their fault, and they'll try and argue that they should get paid a comparative negligence. In Florida, we have comparative fault, meaning if you're viewed as 50% at fault, then you're going to get 50% of the value of your claim. And if you're even more than 50% at fault at all, then you get zero. So there is significant importance to make sure you have the police there, take video footage. If there's witnesses, you know, get the name of somebody that might have been an independent witness at the accident.
So question, if somebody had 80% fault and you had to get your car fixed and you had 80% fault,
You mean
20% goes on the other person, they should pay you 20% of your repair?
The 80% being the yourself? Mm-hmm. If you're 80% at fault, chances are your insurance is going to pay for your car. You're probably going to have a harder time. I haven't seen somebody who's 80% at fault get 20% back on their car usually. And that's...
Yeah, but what about depreciation?
Well, that's a different area completely when you talk about property damage. When we handle a claim, we'll help out and direct that. Usually by the time I'm involved in the case, the property damage is in the process of getting done. The insurance company came out, or we'll make sure that the phone calls are made and the adjusters are out there to do what they're supposed to do.
So how do you get, because it's funny, my daughter was asking the other day, how do I get my depreciation on my car?
Well, there's a claim, it's called the diminished value claim, but those claims are usually going to be a case where A, you own your car, and there has to be a significant value for it, because those are cases that are taken on a contingency for whatever you could get for the difference of the vehicle. So if you drive a car out of the lot and it has, you know, 500 miles on it, and somebody causes you $15,000 of damage to your $65,000 car, now when you go to sell the car down the road, it's going to have a mark on it that your blue book value or what have you is going to be significantly less. So there's a negotiation that's involved that I'm not an expert at, but there is an assessment on that. My expertise is determining the injuries for people. So if somebody is getting treatment, what will happen is you'll reach a point which we call maximum medical improvement. So meaning before your accident, you felt 100% okay. After your accident, you might feel 90% yourself. Maybe your neck and your back are sore, you have a variety of issues. But as time goes by, you're going to start to feel somewhat better. You're going to recover. If you get treatment, you'll recover even quicker. If you got to be 100% back to the way you were, then under the law in Florida, you don't have what's called a permanent injury, meaning you're not entitled to compensation under Florida law. So a doctor is somebody that would assess that, and they could determine that. So a lot of those things might be obvious, like if somebody comes into my office and they have a sling, they're at a broken bone, or they have stitches, or the airbags went off and there's burn marks, those are things that are going to be permanent. But when you have what we would consider a soft tissue or whiplash injury, those are injuries many times that are more significant. Your neck and back are tight, you have difficulty turning. If you go to pull out of your driveway, you can't look past, to your left, and I'm, making a short turn, if, for radio purposes. Right. Then those are going to be injuries that could be permanent as well, but you need a doctor to be able to assess that. And we get a final report from the doctors that determines what's going on. And part of that is when you're finished with your treatment, then we could submit a demand to the insurance company and negotiate a settlement.
So is that something that people do hire you for specifically, though, for like diminished value?
I don't handle diminished value cases.
So who does that?
There's several lawyers that I've worked with that will take those, but again, there has to be a narrow area of the value of the car has to be significant, and they have to own it. They can't be leased vehicles. Those are things that would be different. There's going to be.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like if your vehicle is leased and you get in an accident, they don't ever come back to you for diminished value. They're the ones that get screwed in.
Well,
that.
and there's coverage when you have a leased vehicle. If it's upside down and the car gets totaled, there's shortfall coverage that will protect you for that. But the important thing, again, I'm going to go back to the uninsured motorist coverage. In Florida, you could drive legally with just property and PIP coverage. So if you get hit by somebody that has that type of coverage, usually those are somebody who is not really collectible. Somebody that
they don't have a lot of money.
Right. They're not going to have a lot of money. They're not worried about if they get sued because they're not going to be able to be collected against anyway. So the way you would protect yourself is by buying uninsured motorist coverage, which is optional coverage, and that will step in the shoes of the at-fault driver. So even if there's a hit and run, I've seen cases where somebody cut someone off, ran them off the road into a tree. You have no idea. It happens at nighttime. You don't know what the car was. They're gone. And there you are, banged up. Your car is a wreck. You could pursue an uninsured motorist claim against your own insurance, and they will protect you. I don't think most people could afford to miss 2 months, 3 months of work without a paycheck. And even if you use up sick days or vacation days, what happens if you can't pay your bills?
Right.
So that uninsured motorist coverage is going to be really important to be able to protect you as part of your damages. Because when you're in an accident, the first thing people think about is my car. Everyone, of course, needs transportation. But there's other components. There's your bodily injury claim, from how you're not going to be the same as you were before. There's out-of-pocket medical bills when you're hurt. Your auto insurance doesn't cover everything. And if you have an excessive medical bills, then there's going to be out-of-pockets that are going to be even higher. You have wage losses, you have to provide that for realtors. If you can't drive around and show people homes for a month, do the math on what kind of money you might lose on that. And then there could be future wage losses. Let's say you have a gentleman that lays tile for a living, physical demanding work, and they have a serious back problem, or they need surgery, or they need injections. They can't do their job. How do they support their family? You have to have proper coverage.
So we're getting ready to run out of time. So to summarize it, what coverage do you recommend realtors have? Just because, my fellow realtors listen to this.
Again, I would recommend a minimum of $100,000, $300,000 of coverage, meaning $100,000 per accident, $300,000 per claim. That means if there's 3 people in your car, each person could have an option to collect $100,000. There's more involved in this. It's not just a simple 2-minute conversation.
Right.
But if anyone has any questions about the coverages, you could talk to your insurance agent or feel free to give me a ring and I'll be happy to give some direction on that.
Okay. And a good contact number again for you is?
954-340-0037 or 954-557-0272. I've been doing this for 36 years and would welcome the opportunity to give anyone direction and help, so appreciate it.
All right. And if you didn't get his information or you somehow it just slipped by you, you can always contact me, Laura Sanders, RE/MAX Direct at 954-650-0827. Again, you can always check out my website as well at lauracell.com. And like always, thank you so much for listening and watching Making Money with Laura Sanders. Till next time, have a great night.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for tuning in for Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. To join the conversation, call us at the studio, 888-994-4995 Studio A, or contact Laura directly at 954-650-0827. Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. We look forward to seeing you next.